On this episode, we go behind the scenes of Dead and Buried Treasures, and as always, the creator, the writer, Eric Sprouse, and we will even answer some caller questions. And stick around, there's some trivia coming up. Win some prizes.
Oh, I like prizes.
Black gold.
Texas tea. That's next. Stay with us.
Welcome to Walk the Plank, the Dead and Buried Treasures pre-show. I'm your host, and this right here is the man, the creator, the star, the writer. You pretty much do it all.
I'm like a one-man band. I sound like an Eddie Murphy movie.
Eric Sprouse.
Yeah, that's me. I'm all of that, I guess, right?
You
Jeez,
play all
I
the
do a lot.
characters, right?
I should get like a tax break.
You should.
Yeah, I do all the characters, all the producing, all the writing, and well, I can't say all the writing, but I mean, like a lot of people put some input into it. But like, yeah, I'm Eddie Murphy.
Yes, you are. So this week's movie is Africa Screams with Abbott and Costello.
Yep.
And what do you got here? You brought some props with you.
Well, yeah, actually, I always thought it was interesting when you do like a show, a behind-the-scenes version of the show. You bring some of the props used on the show, and this is one of the actual props we use that we keep the movies in, or is in the theme of the movie or the show is there's 1,500 of these buried on the island of Dead and Buried Treasures. So, this week's movie is Africa Screams. I've always been a big fan of Abbott and Costello, and it's really what got me into doing the horror host genre. I remember when I was a kid, getting up on a Sunday morning, and they would always have this shows my age now, especially if you're a Pittsburgher, WPGH Channel 53 would show the Sunday morning movie. And I was always hoping it would be Abbott and Costello versus either Frankenstein, Dracula, the Mummy, Wolfman, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but nobody ever talks about the other movies they made, like Buck Privates or On Thin Ice or Hold That Ghost or The Noose Hangs High or something like that. So they really got me into the whole horror genre. I love Abbott and Costello. So I thought we would try one this week. I'm a big fan of those two. They're my favorite comedic team from way back when. And we got Africa Screams. And we're going to try to twist it into kind of a horror movie because the title leads you to believe that the whole continent is screaming. So it's got to be scary, right?
Right.
So that's kind of why we're doing it. And again, like I love Abbott and Costello. I thought it'd be a great time. And especially since Universal Studios holds the rights to all of the great monster classics, where they fight Dracula, they fought Frankenstein, they fought the Wolfman, Dr. Jekyll. I mean, Abbott and Costello knew where the money was, and they'd make something funny out of it. And they always got these monsters to work with them and on the show and everything. So this is the only one that is kind of not like that. I will say that they should have marketed this as a horror movie. They do meet King Kong.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, so it's kind of a horror film if you think about it.
Yeah. So speaking of themes and plots and whatnot, what is the plot in Dead and Buried Treasures?
Oh,
because there's always a plot. There's always some kind of hijinks going on.
Yeah.
Behind the captain's ship and his crew.
Yeah, there's always some kind of shenanigans.
There's
right?
always, yeah. So What are they dealing with this week?
Well, in this installment, I don't like to just have a show that just like says, oh, here's the movie, here's the commercial. So I like to have a plot that goes along with the show. So when you're dealing with Africa Screams, we want to do something with Africa.
Mhm.
And so somebody actually brings a witch doctor hat on the show. But many, many moons ago, way back in my younger days, I was a mascot at for a local baseball team. And that was the Washington Wild Things. And so I thought it'd be really cool to have the Washington Wild Thing on the show. He just gets back from a safari from Africa, and he brings the mask with him. When I say the mask, did you ever see the
Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey, yeah.
Oh,
the
yeah,
Jim Carrey
yeah.
movie, The Mask.
Oh, I love that movie.
I like, the whole reason I do some of the shows is I like to collect movie props, and that's one of the ones I have. So I thought that's it. The Mask, I should have brought it today on the show. But The Mask, Africa Screams, it kind of ties in. So he comes back from safari, and he's a guest on our show, thanks to the Washington Wild Things. And he brings the mask with him, and I put it on. I'm sorry, I don't. I'm the producer. Captain Calico Drake puts it on. He puts it on, and let's say mayhem ensues.
Of course.
Yeah, so that's kind of the theme of this episode.
What else you got for us here? Speaking of props and whatnot.
Well, let me tell you what. Somebody asked me the other day, have you ever had problems on the show?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, God, where do I start? And one of the funniest ones is, when you put on the mask in this episode, because we wanted to tie it into Africa and the theme of the show, I wanted to do like impersonations. And I'm not very good at impersonations, but I have fun with them. Like I know the Schwarzenegger, you know, and you got the floppy muscles, you know, and I pop him up, you know, and like stuff like that. So we did one with Rocky.
Okay.
And you know, Adrian, you know, everybody knows who Rocky is. You know, it ain't about how hard you hit; it's about how hard you get up after you've been hit. You know, that kind of thing. So I was shooting some of the stuff in front of a green screen, and sometimes when I do this, I'm by myself. So I was like, okay, I'll do Rocky, and I put one of these on, right? I'm like, okay, got one on, right? I'm like, you know, I'm like, how do I get this on? And I'm like, I'm doing this, you know, and I'm like, and I'm like, all right, and that's all the farther I get it on. So when you see the take in the show, like I kind of keep this hand down a little bit, and I'm like, hey, you know, it's time to, you know, fight, you know, we gotta fight our way out of this, and my glove isn't even on. You know, it's like stupid problems, you know, production problems. It can be just kind of ruin a scene, and then like, you have to get these things off, and you know, you're by yourself, and that's just twice as problem. So it can be problematic. Oh, and then we deal with other props. This is another prop we used on the show this week. It's we call this prop to the 1931 movie Frankenstein. And it kind of bails me out of a situation. It's what we call in the show a brain descrambler. So that's kind of fun.
Very cool.
And I like to bring on some props. Oh, and here's another prop that I was going to show. This one is, of course, I have to turn into Dracula at some point among a myriad of other characters. And this is a prop I used on another show I worked on, 20 years ago, called Fright Night Friday. And our host was the Spooky Spectre at the time. This was the medallion that he had wore. And he still does the show on YouTube. Cool. It's called Fright Night Theater now, Spooky Spectre. In fact, he may be on an upcoming episode.
We might just get into that a little bit later on.
Yeah, we might. So it's a lot of fun doing the show. You have a lot of different props, and we have the little film projector here, obviously, that starts all of our movies.
Nice.
So we have a lot of them, and like as I collected them over the years, it's kind of nice because it flows right in with the plot of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So
very cool.
Yep.
Well, we're gonna be right back, and we will.
Where are we
we'll
going?
Be back. We're gonna take a commercial break
Okay. Well, you're the boss.
because every show has those now.
That's what I hear.
Unless you're streaming on Netflix, then you have no commercials. So, you know, if you're watching this, could be history.
Yeah. Right. I think the producers would have a problem with that. They got to pay the bills somehow.
Right. So when we get back here from the commercial break, we're going to take some callers because that's always fun. And we're going to put you on the spot. You're going to have to answer some questions.
Okay. But okay, go ahead. Take your break.
All right. We'll be back.
And while you're picking yourself up off the floor from that one, mateys, let me introduce you to another great bit of casting.
Dead and Buried Treasures is your weekend haunt. That's Friday and Saturday nights beginning at 11 with a new show the first Friday of the month, right here on this Fright Network affiliate.
Well, you certainly had that one loaded in a chamber.
And don't miss our Fright Network pre-show at 10:30 with insight into making each episode.
Because I probably look significantly different than Captain Calico Drake I do.
Plus, your chance to win even more horrific prizes each week.
I should be hearing from the FCC any minute now.
So don't forget to call and leave your feedback on the show.
Like this one?
And ask questions where your Q&A will be read on the air.
Like this one?
You bring me away out here in the heart of the jungle. Why? Because you told me that you could draw the map. You can't draw, can you? You know you couldn't. Why'd you bring me away out here? Now what am I going to do? What am I going to do with the boats I was going to buy, and the buildings I was going to buy, the railroads I was going to buy? Put that down. That's a fine how do you do. Nice goings on from a pal, from a friend. I never expected from you. I'll have to go into bankruptcy, that's all. That's all that's left for me to do. And what do my friends say? To think that you, my bosom friend... Look, where are you going with the water? Oh, my cat's on fire! Well, what have you got to say for yourself?
Welcome back to Dead and Buried Treasures, where it's Halloween all year long.
It is.
This is the pre-show, Walk the Plank.
We're just
and
20 minutes away from a new show.
We are.
Yeah, I gotta tell you that.
I know. let's get right into our first caller. This is Susan from Kerwin Heights. Susan.
Hey, Susan.
Hi, I'm Susan, calling from Kerwin Heights. I'm a
So-
big fan of Abbott and Costello, and I was wondering what other Abbott and Costello movies you will have on the show. My family and I love them so much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Susan.
Yeah.
What other movies? Well, I think I kind of told you, led about this in the beginning.
Mhm.
Universal Pictures holds the copyrights on all of the, like 99% of the Abbott and Costello movies, from everything from Frankenstein to The Wolfman to Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, to The Mummy, all the good ones where they fought all the scary monsters. And the only two that they do not hold the rights on are Jack and the Beanstalk and Africa Screams. And I don't think you'll ever see Jack and the Beanstalk on the show.
I wouldn't think that would fit the theme of the show. But
It's just not really a horror film.
Right.
I'd love to get the other ones if we got permission, but it's just a whole bunch of red tape in order to get Abbott and Costello on the show. Africa Screams was a perfect film because the copyright doesn't exist. It's in what they call the public domain, and with a title like Africa Screams, it kind of can be twisted a bit to make you think it's kind of horror related, and they meet King Kong in the film, so that's probably the only one you're going to see,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But we're going to work on maybe getting some of the other ones and see what we can do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Our next caller is LaQuisha from Monroeville.
Okay. LaQuisha. LaQuisha, you there?
Yo, what's up? It's LaQuisha here, calling from the hood in Monroeville. I was just wondering
The hood.
what made you decide to become a pirate on the show.
Well, thank you.
And thank you.
Well,
Bye.
All right. Thank you, LaQuisha.
So
What's scarier? When did Monroeville become a hood?
I grew up in Monroeville.
I guess
grew up
I
in
grew up-
Penn Hills, so I hung out in Monroeville Mall all the time. It was
I grew up in the hood of Washington.
Oh.
Yeah,
so that things changed.
Let's see, what made me decide to pirate? Actually, it was last year. It was 2018, summer, and the Ren Fest. I love the Pittsburgh Renaissance Festival. As you can see, they're our sponsor for the show tonight. The whole show is kind of based out of the Pittsburgh Ren Fest. We actually go there with some cameras and whatnot, but you can win some prizes too. if you tune in later. I got the idea. I put a pirate costume together. This was the summer of 2018, and I went to the Pittsburgh Renaissance Festival, and I was walking around, and I had actually named myself Captain Barbossa, and I was Barbossa's brother, Barbossa. And I would walk around on Sundays, just for the heck of it, and announce the Pittsburgh Steelers scores. Because I'm a Steeler fan, and like everybody's there on a Sunday, and everybody's like, "Hey man, you know what the Steeler score is?" They're always out there with a family, you know. "Oh, this is great! I love the Ren Fest, honey. What's the Steeler score? You know what the Steeler score is?"
Right.
And so I just said, I said, "Hear ye, hear ye! Here I am, the pirate from Pittsburgh, with your Pittsburgh Steelers score update." And I just screamed this right out loud at the Renaissance Festival. I say, "The Vikings of Minnesota are currently losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers of a score of 31-3, and everybody, huzzah! And I was like the big, you know, they loved that. So, but also last year, I won the costume contest, and I thought that's kind of cool, and so things just kind of evolved on it. Somebody said, "You ought to have a thing on TV." And I said, "What can I do on TV?" And then we just kind of evolved into the Pittsburgh Pirate, and I kind of wrote this whole backstory that we'll get into in a few future episodes, because we never really showed how Captain Drake got cursed.
So we need an origin story.
Yeah, like an origin story. And that's always, I love those stories when you kind of pick up the story in the middle of the story,
right,
and you can do flashbacks to how things. So we still have that coming up, but we've
great.
Unveiled some things a little bit here and there about the island and the enchanted movies and things like that. So it's coming. We're just taking our time and having some fun with it. So that's how the pirate evolved.
Well, since we're talking about the pirate, we do have an anonymous Facebook fan who wrote in and asked, "Do you really host from a pirate ship?"
Yes.
Let's park out that.
we come down the Mon, you know. No, everything. 100% of the effects on Dead and Buried Treasures is an effect shot.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's an effect shot. 100% of the show is an effect shot. I don't think there's anything we've ever done that wasn't an effect. From the show, the bridge I'm on, or when I'm down in the keel, or I'm out on the deck, or anything that's all green screen. It's kind of like this. If you can imagine the show like this, and that's where the green screen is. That's how we do it here.
Mm-hmm.
And then we put it back in place. And that's how we do it. It's totally hosted as an effect shot 100% of the show. So, no, we do not host it from a pirate ship, but I am now understanding why this Facebook comment was anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
No offense. No, I'm just kidding. But no, we don't host it from a real ship. It's all just effects and green screens.
And while we're on Facebook here, Brian West on Facebook, he asked, "Did you have any problems on the show? Production, special effects?" That's a good one.
How long is your show?
You have to wrap us up.
Yeah, I mean, all the time. I mean, there's always something. Last night, we were editing, well, geez, I don't even know where to start. This is such a loaded question. I mean, we're doing a Halloween show next time in October from the cemetery that Night of the Living Dead was shot at, that it started out, where the big line is, "They're coming to get you, Barbara," you know, that one.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to find the tombstone, and we couldn't find the tombstone in the middle of the cemetery. We know it said, well, the one that it all happens says Blair, and we're like, okay, well, we got to find this tombstone. So while we're there at the cemetery, we're like maybe 50 yards away from our target, and we're still looking for it. A car pulls up. I'm like, oh, here it is. This is going to be the caretaker. He's going to kick us out or something stupid that we've done, you know. And so, as it turns out, the car empties, and there's 4 like college kids in it. And I'm looking at them, and I'm about 50 yards away, and they walk over to this tombstone,
Mm-hmm.
and they start taking selfies with it. And I'm like, maybe that's it. I said, come on. And I grabbed my producer, and we walked over. And we would, like, how do you nonchalantly walk up,
Yeah.
you know, in the middle of the cemetery, like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of wanted to say, hey, you guys here for the same reason we are? And they're like, yeah. And I had Living Dead fans. I'm like, yeah. He says, this is the cemetery. And he says, I said, how do you know this is the tombstone? He goes, because there's a Google plaque of it.
Oh, wow.
I said, really? And I said, yeah. I said, Night of the Living Dead. I said, boom, right here. So we found the stone. And then and when we called it up on YouTube, we're like, oh, that is the stone. We even got the angles found the stone that Barbara's brother, the name will lose me, falls, hits his head, and he supposedly dies and everything. And so, we have issues like that happen all the time. It's just like, I lost half the footage because I was editing the other night, this episode you're going to watch right now, and lightning hit the area, so my power went out and I lost everything. I had to start all over again. So it's one thing after another of just a myriad of problems, but it's kind of like that Marine motto, overcome and adapt. You're going to have problems. It's just how well you deal with them, despite adversity,
Well, if you want to call in and ask this man some questions, you can. We have the number right below there. You could call in. Captain Calico Drake will take your call. And if you can't get through because lines are busy, that's okay. Leave a message, and we will use your question next show.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to call in, you can get through to him through Facebook. You can leave him a message on the Facebook page, the Dead and Buried Treasures Facebook page, and just message him there with your question, and we'll read that on the show.
Yeah, let me say here real quick, because I know we have some other calls to get to. Sunday night will be our YouTube premiere, as always. So if you don't live in the viewing area, which is the Pittsburgh area, you don't get BPTV or PCTV. BPTV is pretty much our flagship station. PCTV airs us a lot on the weekends, but it's not really around 11. And then we're moving into Fayette County and Washington counties as well, courtesy of CUTV at California University and Comcast eventually. But our YouTube premiere will be, as always, on Sunday nights at 9 o'clock. A little bit earlier since it's Sunday night, so you can get it if you got to work the next day. But it's always a fun time to watch the show and see it. I have friends. I used to teach in Cincinnati. I used to teach down in Washington, D.C. I was a college professor down there. So I have a lot of friends that like to see the show, but they don't live in Pittsburgh. So this is the best way to watch it, and they can watch it through the YouTube premiere on our YouTube channel. That is also right here. You go to my page in Neon Guy, and then you go to playlists, and you can always see Dead and Buried Treasures. You'll see a lot there, and just go to the most current one. It'll have a countdown as well with Sunday night at 9.
There you go.
Yep. Any more calls?
Yeah, we have. We can probably get through 2 more here.
All right, let's give it a shot.
Let's see. We got Julie from Bethel Park.
Julie from Bethel Park.
Hi, it's Julie. I'm calling from Bethel Park, and we were wondering why you chose the pirate to be the host of your show. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate the call. I think I talked about this earlier. It was just kind of an evolution. The pirate was just the easiest to do at the time. I already had the costume, and I had a really good accent to do with it. So that kind of just morphed into what we did, and it was a lot of fun.
We'll do a last caller here. This is Bruce from good old Pittsburgh.
All right, Bruce. How you doing tonight, Bruce?
Hey, this is Bruce from Pittsburgh. I just wanted to know, where did you get the idea of Jack? Is he a puppet or an animatronic like that thing, the Disney rides? Just wanted to know.
All right, Bruce.
Great show.
Well, thank you, Bruce. Jack, he said?
Jack. Yeah, the parrot.
Well, I gotta tell you, Bruce, Jack wouldn't be happy. He's not a parrot. He's a cockatoo. He takes that personally. No. Originally, when we were gonna do, I needed a co-host to throw some stuff off. We even have our own band with the guy that plays the harmonica. We have but I needed a co-host, and I thought the best one to have would be a parrot. Like the cat, Long John Silver, always talked to his bird and always had the parrot. But originally I got a puppet that I did, and I was just going to do one of these things. The puppet I ordered, I made it for the show, and it was so hard to get your arm in. I said, this isn't going to work. And I happened to be walking through a Target one day, and I saw these toys called Fur Real. Fur, F-U-R, real. And it's kind of fun because there it was. And he moved, and he talked, and he said things out loud. So I said, this is perfect. And I bought a couple of them in case one broke. He just talked and he'd do calisthenics, and he'd talk and everything. So I think what we'll do is, if it's okay with you, Rich, maybe next time on the show, I'll bring Jack in. He could be our guest star.
Oh, that's great.
I can show you how he talks and what he does and how real he can be.
That's
a real pain in the ass, I'm telling you. But no, he's great. And that's what we do. He's animatronic, and he just moves, and it's perfect. It's a perfect touch to the show.
So, what is next for Dead and Buried Treasures. Halloween's coming up next month.
Yeah.
So, what do you have in store for that? That's got to be something pretty big.
Yeah, we're doing a special Halloween next month, or next time on the show. We're going to host the movie Night of the Living Dead, and it's the zombie movie that launched them all. It was, and I had the opportunity to work on the remake in 1990. I played zombie number 49, and I was always proud of that. And then I worked on Dawn of the Dead, not the one way back in the day, but the one that was remade back in like 2004, where the one where they had to run.
Yeah, zombies don't run.
Oh man, I didn't know they had to run. Me and running is not good. Anyway, so I had to work on those two. It was a lot of fun, and then I got to work on Diary. Diary was fun.
That's great.
That was the one, and that's the one I'm most proud of. So, Night of the Living Dead is going to be our next movie, and we're going to have some special guests on the show, some horror hosts from the area, and it's a whole plot thing that's going to be an expanded, supersized edition of the show.
That's great.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Crossover team up.
Yeah, it's a big crossover team up involving some other horror hosts, like hopefully the Spooky Spectre from Fright Night Theater, Sluggo from what they call the Vortex. It's a 24-hour monster horror host channel online. Gravely from the old TV show The Midnight Monster Hop that was on MeTV for a while, and also Jack Shadow for you fans out there who watch Chiller Night Theater in Pittsburgh. He'll be on the show. So we're going to have a big horror host crossover, and I have to get myself out of some shenanigans that I've gotten myself into once again. I'm sorry, that Calico Drake has gotten himself into once again. I just produced the show and write it that way.
Yeah, right. Well, that sounds great. I mean, what better way to bring in Halloween than have all these iconic hosts come together?
Yeah, and we always like to take on a new sponsor each time. Next month, there's a good chance it'll be 100 Acres Manor in Pittsburgh. For this month, for the show you're watching now, it's the Renaissance Festival. Last month it was Steel City Comic Con, so we like to take on some big advertisers like that and do some stuff with them, and it's always a lot of fun.
So speaking of sponsors, usually when you have a nice sponsor, they tend to give you something for you to give away. They tend to give you something.
You mean like a trivia question, Rich?
Like a prize.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be our segue into the trivia question here.
Yeah, it is. Why don't we do a trivia question here on this show to complement the show coming up? If you watch Africa Screams tonight, there is a scene that takes place early in the movie where these two big giant goons, like always, walk into the bookstore that Abbott and Costello work in, and they ask Costello for a particular book named. I can't remember the name of it, but that's where you guys come in. You're going to have to call in. Now, if you call in and you know if you watch the movie, you know the name of the book, and they say it a couple times, you can win an oil change, courtesy of Midas in Washington, on Washington Road in Washington, Pennsylvania. And if you call in and get that name of the book correct, you get a free oil change. That's always nice, right?
Yeah.
The Swashbuckler's Hunt doesn't need an oil change like that, but maybe your car might. So
well, you should always get your oil changed,
right?
Especially before the winter.
right. So call in, tell us the name of the book, watch the premiere, and go from there. And I think we're out of time. I think we are out of time.
Oh, there you go.
We don't have time for another break.
No more breaks.
So I guess that's it. Boy, a half hour goes fast.
It does. It really does. But it was fun. So make sure you call that number if you have a question. We will have you on our next show. And if you would like, send a question into this man here on Facebook, Dead and Buried Treasures. And we will see you next time.
It's been a pleasure. Always. See you next month, same time.
Yes. See you next time.
Enjoy the premiere, folks. It's a family-friendly film. Say that 3 times.
I'm not editing that out.
Family-fiendly show. Abbott and Costello are in trouble again. And this time with King Kong.
See you next time.
We'll see you next time.
mate was faced by the possum's bite. Possum's brain with a marlin spike, and a cookie stroll was marked belied. Had been gripped by fingers then, and they lay wound that man like a breakout day in a boozing den. Yo ho ho in a bottle of rum, 50 men off a stiff and start. Yo ho ho in a bottle